For 21 years, he was addressed as Your Honor. Now it's our honor to have this morning's guest back on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the South Carolina Employment Security Commission's Coastal Workforce Center here on Victory Lane in Conway, serving the entire Grand Strand. We're focused on the life of the Honorable David Harwell, and we're visiting with the Honorable David Harwell. Good morning, Dave. Do you mind if I call you David?
Call me Dave. I've been called everything and it doesn't bother me.
Over a couple of years, that's right. It is wonderful to get you in, and of course, I think the last time we were together, back in 2005, we were at the Herald's office there on down on the former Myrtle Beach Air Force Base. Before that, you'd been with us in your old stomping ground. We were over in Timmonsville when we had you and Ed Young and Phil Levinas in that week, which was very exciting over in the Fox 43, the Florence studio. It was great being with you and Ed Young, and of course having Phil over. And haven't gotten either of them back on the show recently, so we need to do that, but it was a great opportunity to get you in now that you're hanging your hat for a good bit of the time in Horry County.
You know, and I didn't know when you told me you wanted me to come out here to the Employment Security Commission office, I thought maybe you wanted me to apply for a job.
We can make that happen today. Here on Thursday morning, we can probably get that working. You're not looking for one now, are you?
Not really.
Not now. This is very exciting. Of course, I was talking to a professor from Coastal Carolina University last weekend who said he was driving back from Charlotte. He was crossing over a bridge over there, and I guess between Florence and Marion County. And did he see your name on a bridge over there?
The bridge over the Great Pee River. Yeah.
Over the Great Pee River. Yeah. It is a great big bridge. Does it say David Walker Harwell on there?
Says David Walker Harwell Bridge.
That must be a little intimidating, David, when you drive. What does that feel like when you drive over that bridge?
Doesn't bother me. I just want them to let me put a toll on that bridge.
A lot of our viewers obviously driving to that.
I'm flattered by the honor. You know?
Yeah, that is very exciting. That's not far from your birthplace or from your family home.
I grew up in that area, and when I was a judge, I was a resident circuit judge, the 12th Circuit, and that was Florence and Marion counties. I've spent a lot of time on that road and the old road before that. When that road was built, I also participated in some of the efforts to get the road built. And even when I was in the legislature, I had the state put a public boat ramp under the bridge for my friends that fish and hunt.
Oh, come on now. Come on. You could just never get that toll on there with the direct deposit into your account. Yeah.
You know, one of the things you don't do in politics is you don't mess with anything with hair or fur on them. These hunters and fishermen, or scales, they'll really cause you a problem. And they said they needed that boat ramp down there. I immediately went to work.
I bet you did. I bet you did. And that was right there on the Great Pee River.
Yeah, right on the Great Pee River.
Something you'll never forget, even as far back as we're talking about 45 years ago, David, when you joined the state legislature.
Yeah.
Is it 1962?
Yeah.
In 62. What was that like, having grown up in the PD and then determining, and how did you determine that you would actually step out and run for office?
It's so different now.
Really?
Well, we didn't have single-member districts then. When I was in the legislature, and I was there for 6 terms, I represented Florence County. We didn't have districts.
The entire county.
I represented the entire county.
Wow.
And so, frankly, I think it's the most economical way for government to operate. You know, your budgets now, because of the various districts, they all have their little territories, and you do something for one district, then you have to do it for the next district, regardless of need. And so it has caused the government budgets, both county and city and state, to just quadruple overnight. Just tremendous. But anyway, that's one of the big differences.
That's a very good point. I'd like to talk more about that, but that is a big difference. So you represented that entire county.
Well, the legislative delegation then ran the county. We had we call them road commissioners that met, and they would help operate, along with the county manager, the scraping of the roads and the digging of the ditches and things like that. But the operation of the county was done by the local delegation. We introduced every year what we call the county supply bill then. It was the county appropriation bill, that's what it was. And we set all the salaries, did all the
everything out of
managing.
Columbia.
And of course, after all this came home rule.
Home rule,
you know,
right.
And we divested ourselves of that, and we supposedly then were to attend to the state business rather than the county business. But
probably still
it's got its good and its bad.
Yeah.
It's far more economical the way we did it way back in the 60s before we had home rule. But that's in the past. We'll never go back to it. The U.S. Supreme Court says we've got to have the one man, one vote rule, and
right.
we've got to have districts, and so.
So there had not been county councils then, or were there still county councils? They just didn't have the kind of clout that they may have now.
There may have been a few counties that had county councils, but they didn't have the governing authority that the delegations have or had at that time. Ours was called the Florence County Commissioners.
Right.
And like I say, they sort of looked out for the chain gang and the
right.
roads and the
sure.
stuff like that.
And so at that time, were there still 124 House members, for instance, or
yep.
there were?
There were 124 House members for the entire state.
Right.
Apportioned population-wise among the counties, 46 counties, and you had one senator from every county, regardless of the size of the county. And this was one of the things.
That's a great one-man. I mean, excuse me. Go ahead. Yeah.
That's one of the things that brought about the one-man, one vote. When I was in the legislature, we had what was known then as the Barnwell Ring. Senator Edgar Brown was from Barnwell County, one of the smallest counties in the state.
Right.
And he was chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, president of the South Carolina Senate, and he'd been there for years and years and years, and was there until he passed away. And Saul Blott was from Barnwell County, and he was Speaker of the House.
Oh,
so
boy.
Those two very influential people did a lot toward running the state of South Carolina. The governor back then had very little authority. I mean,
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, he could veto stuff and he could recommend, but that was about all the governor could do back then. So, yeah, it was good and bad, and, you had Greenville and Spartanburg, and, of course, Oree wasn't a big county then. It was just a small county. It didn't have much of a population. You had Charleston County and Richland County. They were sort of, having to abide by whatever Saul Blott and Edgar Brown wanted to do.
It would have been a good time to be from Barnwell County back then. I suspect there were a handful of clerks that may have come back to the residents of that county. Hopefully not too many, but I'm sure it's...
But one thing about it, they did not interfere with the operation of our respective counties.
Oh, good. Okay.
We ran our counties.
Right.
When I say we, the delegation from those respective counties literally ran the counties, and we ran them much more economically than they're being run today.
Why do you think? So it would have been the one man, one vote, that changeover that caused the entire breakup of the state legislatures running the counties.
Yeah.
And is that would be nationwide then?
Yeah. Yeah, nationwide, and you have all these districts, and you have one representative or one councilman from every district, And
as you say, a great opportunity to really be able to sell the voice for that county, as opposed to, as you know now, oftentimes a senator will be representing 6 counties. Not to take anything away from Dick Elliott or Yancey McGill or others who represent large territories, but you know, it can be difficult to talk for the small portion of your population, I mean of your district, that's in 1 or 2 or 3 counties and a very large portion from one other.
Yeah. Well, the theory is state legislators are supposed to be doing the business of the state. So it doesn't make any difference whether or not you represent 5 or 6 counties. You're supposed to be looking at the state issues, and your local county councils and your local city councils are supposed to be running the government. And that's your home rule.
Yeah.
But that's costly. That has been very costly.
Albeit at the same time, as you said, it's taken effect nationwide, so you would never see anything other. Yeah. It's going to be costly or not.
We'll never go back to the good old days, and frankly, I don't think we should go back. Somebody said, I'd like to go back to the good old days. I said, well, I don't know how old you are, but I remember the good old days. I don't believe I want to go back to the good old days.
I'm sure quite a few aspects of that. Well, a lot happened as we thought about it. Obviously, when we were filming there in Florence, out in Timmonsville, you know, we highlighted some of the amazing things that happened during your tenure in the state legislature between 62 and I guess 73. When we think about the establishment of Francis Marion, a lot of the expansion, or maybe the expansion of Florence Darlington Tech, of course, the change of home rule, and some other very exciting things that happened then. You know, when you think back about those times, what was it in the early childhood that spurred that interest? Was there anything in your childhood? Your parents, were they ever in politics, David?
Never in politics. The only political involvement, my father was on the local school board, and they've always encouraged us to, you know, try to get involved in the community and do what we could to better the lot of our community. And we all did. You know, I'm one of 6 children. I'm next to the oldest. My oldest brother, now deceased, was a Presbyterian minister, and a sister that was a school teacher, and another brother right younger than me was a circuit judge, another brother that's a magistrate, still a magistrate in Florence. Got another brother that's involved in mental health in Columbia with the Baptist Hospital.
Everyone stayed in the Palmetto State.
Yeah. Well, no, my brother that was the minister, he was a graduate of Princeton, and then he was one of the assistant pastors at the National Presbyterian Church.
Is that right? In Washington, of course.
When Dwight Eisenhower was president.
Oh, boy.
That was one of his parishioners.
You are kidding, to have a president as a parishioner. And some other presidents later went on, of course, to attend National Press.
So he went from there to Philadelphia, and then he got tired of the Yankee syndrome.
Not going to touch it. Not going to touch it. Be careful. Be careful.
No,
I'm kidding.
But he wanted to come back south, so he went to St. Petersburg, Florida, and stayed there the rest of his life at church in St. Petersburg, Florida. But we've all been involved in public life to some extent.
That is fascinating. Yes, David. So neither your mother or your father, other than your father's service on the school board, something else gave you all that inkling to get involved.
Well, they encouraged us to get involved with the community and try to do what we could to better the community.
Y'all still have that family home place there? Is it it's what a lot of people think is a shortcut there at that Exxon where you pass
shortcut to Charlotte or Myrtle Beach?
Right.
Depends on which way you're going.
That's exactly right. For folks leaving the area, and of course our viewers here in Ori as they're heading up, traveling up 501, and then of course they'll cross over the David Walker Harwell bridge over the Great Petey River, and it's that not long after that. There's a stoplight. I think on your left would be an entrance down to a large company.
Roach, Carolina.
Okay, yeah, Roach, Carolina, of course, is over there.
Big pharmaceutical company. Yeah, the family home. In fact, I was born in that home.
You were born in the home?
In the home. Yeah. All of my brothers and sisters were born there except for my oldest brother and my baby brother. All the rest of us were born in the home.
The first and last. They didn't know.
This were in the days of the family doctor when he made house calls.
Right, sure. And was it the same doctor who bore all y'all?
Same doctor.
Is that right?
Old Dr. E.M. Hicks, yeah.
Son of a gun. Is that why one of your brothers ended up with the name Hicks?
No, that was my father's name. My
Is
father
that right?
was named Baxter Hicks, and so one of my brothers was named Hicks.
Well, maybe you can tell the doctor it was him. Anyway. Yeah. The opportunity to stay up in that area, and of course when you think about Francis Marion and its launching, that must have been pretty exciting for y'all. I'm not sure what year Coastal kicked off. It may have been, but it was before that, I guess, in the mid 50s there. But of course for Francis Marion, it was then the mid 60s when it kicked off. You remember those experiences?
Very vividly, and we worked very hard on it. We had a branch of the University of South Carolina that met in the Florence County Library.
Is that right?
We had gentlemen, we had several people who were very involved in it, local citizens. Mr. Rogers, who was the editor of the Florence Morning News at the time, Dr. Howard Stokes, who was ophthalmologist there in Florence. It's still the Stokes Eye Clinic. His boys and grandsons are in there now, along with others. But they were very active in it, and the entire Florence delegation was very active in it. And with the help of then Governor McNair, Bob McNair, we got the legislation through, and the Gregg family, the Wallace family, had the land where it is presently located, and thanks to their generosity, they made a gift to Francis. It was Francis Marion College then, to the college to build the facilities that are there now.
They donated the land?
They donated the land, the Wallace family.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. And that's how it all got started, and it's a really good institution. The present president is Dr. Fred Carter.
Of course, yes.
And
we've been with a number of times.
He's just a great fellow and a good president, and does a wonderful job for Francis Marion University.
Absolutely.
But you know, now I'm on the board down here at Coastal Carolina University.
I don't think I knew
the foundation
that.
board.
The foundation board.
Yeah, so I'm wearing two hats. I still support Francis Marion University, but I'm also very involved now with trying to help Coastal Carolina University.
Right next door, I'd say right next door, but of course Horry Georgetown Technical College next door, and that's a good segue into your support also of Florence Darlington Tech. And then next door to Horry Georgetown Tech, right out here at the Coastal Workforce Center, is Coastal Carolina. Beautiful campus. Just, about 2 weeks ago, we were out on that beautiful Saturday, April 28th at Coastal for the 3-mile Walk America for the March of Dimes. More than $300,000 raised to fight prematurity here in the Palmetto State. But it is fascinating to think.
I saw your picture in your present issue of Ron Engel and Dave Bennett, who participated in your.
That's exactly right. The one that came out last Thursday, and so much is happening. It's amazing when you think about the university there. He and the two of them together have done so much together as a team. Obviously, Dr. DeCenzo was out of the walk with his family, and Eddie Dyer. So many folks that helped make that walk successful. John Locks was with us earlier this week. The new director of the MBA program. Very exciting to see the things happening out at Coastal, David.
I got to give Dave Bennett a plug.
Yeah,
he's not only a great football coach for Coastal Carolina University, and frankly, I just hope we can keep him because he's so good.
Oh, yeah.
Some larger school is going to come along, and it's going to be very difficult to keep him. But I have never known, and I've known a lot of football coaches, but I've never known a football coach to get so involved in helping the local community.
Yes.
You can call on Dave Bennett, and he will work with you and help you any way he can possibly do it. He's involved in Juneau with March of Dimes and numerous other charitable
tons of
things.
school groups. Yeah, I saw.
And he doesn't have to do all those things. He doesn't get paid for those things.
Sure.
He may get paid for some endorsements.
Probably many more to come over the years.
And I hope so. He's a good guy.
And a PD native with deep roots in Cheraw, or Chesterfield County. That's right. I think he said we were with him not long ago at Ripley's Aquarium when he was in talking about Walk America. He was the honorary chair not only this year, but last year and maybe even the year before. I think he said his older or younger brother is the head of the rec department there in Chesterfield County, and very active up there. And of course his dad's living up there. You know, his mother recently passed away and been a tough hit, but great that his large family here, the Coastal Carolina family, and of course the team wrapped around him and made last season so successful in her honor. A lot of great roots in the PD that have expanded down to the beach. Do you have family in the area, David, still? Of course, you mentioned a lot of your brothers. Any children of your own?
Oh, yeah, I have 2 boys. I had 3 boys, and I lost my oldest son when he was a youngster.
Oh, no.
But one of my sons, Brian, is a federal judge in Florence. Bush appointed him. Very proud of him. Have another son that practices real estate law down at Surfside.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And
his name is Baxter Harwell. And each of them have 2 children. So I have 4 grandchildren, 2 down here, 2 in Florence. And boy, do they take a lot of time.
I bet they do. That's right.
They call and say, "Granddaddy, we're playing ball tonight. We want you to come watch us play baseball." And I try to make all these ball games. And
last time I saw you were heading over to the Pelicans field with one of your grandsons, one of your grandchildren for one of those early games. The excitement out there, it must be wonderful. It must be wonderful.
Well, I'm very proud of my family. I ought to knock on wood around here somewhere. I've never had any major problems with any of them other than just a normal teenage problem.
And of course, both of them joining the law. Had that been something, of course, your parents not having been active in political life other than your dad's service there, and all of y'all at some way or another getting active, getting out in the public, and then both of your boys here follow you in the law. Is that something they had talked about at an early age?
Well, the one that's the federal judge, Brian, has always been interested in it.
Right.
And Baxter, he didn't know what he wanted to do.
We'd like to hear that.
When he graduated from Carolina, the one that's the federal judge, I have to wear 2 hats too at the Clemson Carolina game because the one that's federal judge is a Clemson graduate before he went to law school. The one that's a lawyer here in Surfside is a Carolina graduate of both undergraduate and law school.
Of course,
so I have to be very careful about
That's right.
my remarks about the Carolina-Clemson game. But anyway, what were we talking about?
That was a good segue to say, did you go to school here in the state, David? Of course, you got your law degree here.
I went to University of South Carolina Law School.
Right.
I went to the
undergraduate was somewhere fancy out west, right?
I went to the University of Texas.
That's right.
Thought I was going to be a geologist. This is a long story.
Oh, yeah, that's good. We've got a couple of minutes. We'll be back tomorrow, though.
When I was in high school, this was right after the Second World War, and everyone was patriotic, and if you had your parents' consent, you could join the National Guard. So I joined the National Guard at age 16 and went to Camp Stewart, Georgia, now Fort Stewart, Georgia, a couple of summers training.
Right.
And when I went off to college, I was supposed to have been discharged from the National Guard. Well, when I was at the University of Texas, the Korean conflict broke out, and my unit was activated.
I love it.
So I came home, and they found one little sentence in the minutes that they sent to General Dozier, who was the adjutant general, saying, "Corporal David W. Harwell, 450-0977, armed and discharged, gone to college." So they gave me my discharge from the National Guard, and then while I was there, I had a friend that played ball for the University of Texas, and he was in the Navy Reserve, and he talked me into joining the Navy Reserve with him. And so, long story short, I ended up going into the Navy, spending 2 years in the Navy, then coming back, going to law school, then getting a commission in the Air Force when I graduated from law school. So I've been in the Army, Navy, and Air Force.
That is amazing. Not many people can claim that, David. That's
but
incredible.
anyway, that's sort of my educational background. Is back then, after 3 years of undergraduate, you could take what they call the Princeton admission test. They didn't have this LSAT then. They had, and if you did well enough on it, you could go into law school after 3 years of undergraduate. After 90 hours of undergraduate, you could go in to law school and get later a combined degree, or you could just go right straight on and get your law degree. That's what I did. And then from there, the rest is history. I went back to Florence and practiced law.
There's more to it, David, and we're going to have to get to that tomorrow. We've run out of time. Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Come back tomorrow and be with us?
Be right here.
Fantastic. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with the Honorable David Harwell coming up next. You know, not oftentimes you have an opportunity to get with somebody who has served in the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. And, of course, if you can't be with us tomorrow for part 2 of David Harwell, you can go online to carolinapeople.com in a couple weeks, watch part 2 or even watch part 1 again. Some very exciting things. Come back with us to be here tomorrow to visit, to find out what happened after that time in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and law school there at USC.